Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Nye. Right now in Isle Deckney, it's 10:17 a.m. on Thursday, May 14th, 2020. No news to report. Leaf is here today. One day we will get new art. Today is not going to be that day. Okay. I think the term that's been running through my head recently, I'm going to make sure I'm using this term correctly. I'm not. So, I'm trying to think of a term for this, but, let's see, so what do we got? We got KK Groove, new song, we got the number 4 shirt, and Pietro sent me something. To my new pal, Sunflower. Letters are a great medium for messages that sound super awkward in person. Like, I'm really glad I met you, and I think you're a cool person. For the record, I'm telling you that. Not awkwardly, Pietro. Neat. There's a weird feeling sometimes, you know, that certain types of media have a habit of creating. For me, at least. I don't know if you guys are one of those folks. We have no song. Okay, we already had this one. Neat. And I used the term originally when I wrote this note. Wow, it's been 2 years since I wrote this note. But I used the term cognitive dissonance, which apparently is actually not the term I thought it was. Cognitive dissonance actually means the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially relating to behavioral decisions and attitude changes. It's not really the word I'm looking for. But sorry, not cognitive dissonance. But there's a weird feeling that I have sometimes, mind lurch may be a good name for it, or maybe mind screw is a name for it that you could use in other circumstances. But it's a feeling that happens when, I guess, things do not pan out in the potential way you expected them to. And it's a very weird feeling that I've only seen in some very specific circumstances. Expectation or something like that, where all of a sudden something stops and there's this sudden lurch. It's as if there's momentum in a car, or maybe in a, maybe you're on a, I don't know, maybe a roller coaster or something like that. And all of a sudden and unexpectedly, it's a stop. And there's actually times when I feel that happens even when there's no motion involved. But it feels like there's kind of a momentum of the mind that happens that makes you kind of expect things to go in kind of a different way. And when it doesn't go that way, there's that lurch right there. One of the examples I ended up writing down for how this ends up happening. Oh, wait. Hold on. I didn't pull that out of the box. That's why I couldn't put it in the jukebox. Let me go check to make sure. Sup? Want more reactions? Okay, new reaction. The wah reaction. Use that if you ever see me get beat at arm wrestling, because of course you'd be shocked that happens. Okay, we have learned shock. Yeah, that's been a reaction in Animal Crossings for a very long time. Here, have a number 4 shirt. But one of the examples that I wrote down was when a story kind of ends either abruptly or in a way drastically different than you were kind of expecting. Now, I think what I have to define is a little bit, this is not, okay, KK Groove is a new one. Okay. But it's different from just surprise, I think. It's not the same feeling as, someone shout, as a jump scare in a horror game, or as someone, jumping out from behind a bed to wish you happy birthday at a surprise birthday party. It's not that same feeling. There's a very, very different feeling, I think. And one of the examples that I wrote down originally was Homestuck. This is kind of interesting. I don't know how many of you actually followed Homestuck. I ended up following it fairly intensely back in the day. I actually keep meaning to go back and go through it now that I'm a number of years older. And especially now, I enjoy going back over media a couple of years later that I've already read through, already watched, already beaten, so on and so forth. Knowing how it ends, I like to go through it again to kind of, especially in the very early sections of whatever it is, to kind of re-experience what it is and see how the early stuff relates to the later stuff. There are definitely media that try to do the Chekhov's gun sort of thing, where there's a detail that is hinted at very early on in the media that comes back in a very important way later on. And I always find it fun, especially with that type of thing, to go back and kind of look at it again and kind of see how it was hinted at. And was it hinted at heavily enough that I would actually pay attention to it? Or was it just kind of, I didn't realize someone showed me that you can actually interact with these things. And you can actually use them, which is neat. What's up, Pietro? What are you working on? A rose bed. Neat. I would... Yeah, give me this. I want the rose bed. Cool. New recipe. But I love going back through stuff, and especially when it causes me to have one of these feelings. And Homestuck was one of them that did definitely have me get kind of... stumbling, I guess. Here, I'm gonna give you a flower. They're really pretty. What do you call them? Yellow Cosmos? Yeah. Got just the place for these back home. Okay, well, you have fun with that. And I think for Homestuck, it was that the course of the story took a very different turn towards the end of the story. Things were resolved in ways that I really wasn't expecting them to. There was a kind of, a kind of dissonance. I'm gonna use the word dissonance, even though cognitive dissonance is not the term I'm looking for. But there was definitely this kind of, oddness, strangeness, weirdness. Oh my god, it's a gigantic hat. What is this nonsense? Interested in a throwback hat table. Okay, that's not too terrible. Cool. I would have given that to Boone, but there are definitely there was definitely this decided feeling that I had when I finished Homestuck, when I finished reading it. I haven't. For those of you who are curious, I haven't read the prologue or the epilogue yet. I need to read through it, but I just wasn't interested in reading an actual document when that came out. But there was a definite, this definite feeling of, okay, this has ended, but it didn't end where I expected it to. There's a kind of a gap between my expectation of this and where it is. And that kind of left me in the lurch. It left me thinking. Generally, especially, I usually get in these when there's usually like a loop of this nature, where, I mean, time travel stories do it a lot, but where I guess the focus of the story or the storyline, kind of hits a point of, I guess, interacting with itself. A log wall-mounted clock. Interesting. I already know that recipe. Okay. And Homestuck ended up doing that. It's kind of hard for me to describe this, really, because it's a very, it's very different. I guess it feels, it feels similar to when I guess a character in something like this, a character that you've either grown to know very well, dies or something like that. There's this just kind of weird feeling that follows that I can't really describe. I was following along with a story whose name I can't remember at this point. And the story was kind of odd. It was, I think I was just kind of reading a synopsis or something like that. Because I can't remember what the name of this was, or kind of some of the details. But the idea was that you were following along with I almost buried it. Okay. We're good now. I didn't bury the small amount. I buried the large amount. You were following along with a character who was interacting with a series of artificial intelligences inside of a computer game of some nature. And the story starts by just interacting with these AI. But as time moved on, it turned out that the AI were very real. It was really like real artificial intelligence. And not only did they exist, but they were aware that they were AI inside of a virtual story. And while the computer system does run kind of on its own, kind of continuing at its own pace. Actually, I'm gonna give the throwback hat table to you. You should replace your couch with this. Okay. So what was very interesting about this is that while the AI kind of processed and kind of did its thing when you were not looking at it, so it didn't matter if someone was interacting with the computer or not. The AI, the world did kind of exist and time did pass. By directly interacting with the system, you could force time to pass a little bit faster. Because it was very much this kind of pseudo video game style. So you, as the player, as the user, you might need an hour to pass, and instead of waiting a real-time hour, you could just say make 1 hour pass, and the simulation would advance an hour. The characters would not necessarily be aware that time went faster because of the way render speeds worked. But they would experience everything that happened in that hour, even though it only took a couple of seconds. And the entire story was kind of based around, interacting with these characters until you got to know more about the true main character, who was the person interacting with the computer. As time went on, you began to learn that this true main character was stuck in a kind of an emergency situation, and they were trying to get answers on what was happening in real life from the computer itself. Now that might sound like a little bit of a weird thing. Why would you, why would you look at real life stuff because you're in the, from answers to the computer? Well, the computer was linked to, the base or the bunker or whatever it was that they were inside of. So the only way to really get answers was to talk to the computer itself, and they kind of got dragged into the lives of the AI while trying to solve the true problem. And then towards the end of the story, the AI asked the player to solve one of their problems for them. And then there's kind of a very Clue. If you've ever seen the movie Clue, it's a very Clue-like thing where it shows different results that could have happened. If you choose to help, or if you choose not to help them, if the player, I guess, the actual main character chooses not to assist, then they just kind of leave and go, brave the issue itself. If it turns out that the power is failing in the location where this AI mainframe is being held, so the player, knowing that the emergency will never be resolved and they're going to die anyways, turns off the AC circulation system to give more power to the AI to let it exist longer than it normally would, and then the player dies over the course of this. So that was a potential ending. So there's a bunch of endings, and the one that really hit me was the final ending, the quote-unquote true ending, which was that the player does assist the various AI characters living in this artificial world, and the way they assisted was by getting rid of the AI overseer, this kind of program that was watching over the world and limiting what these characters could actually do. And instead of putting in the Overseer kind of, I guess, had a character concept in and of themselves. It was an existing personality, and that personality was causing problems. So you get rid of the main AI controller, get rid of their conflicting personality, and put in kind of a blank slate. Now, unfortunately, the blank slate is no longer powerful enough to keep up with what the AI characters are actually doing. And again, these are AI characters that you spend some time getting to know. So it's kind of like it's losing, instead of having, you know, blow-by-blow updates on the lives of someone, now you're only getting occasional updates, and the updates come months or years apart. But the big part of this was that you could continue interacting with the computer to force it to simulate faster, knowing that power is about to go down. So you interact once, and 20 years pass, and you get a quick printout of what's changed in 20 years, how these people have lived and existed, what's been going on. You interact again, and 40 years passes, and you get another update, you know, children have happened, and the society has progressed. You do it again, 80 years has passed. You do it again, 200 years has passed, and then power fails, and their existence is wiped out. And then the main character decides to leave and go brave whatever emergency it was that they were dealing with. But that ending to that story really screwed with me a little bit, because it definitely was, you know, it's a very different definition of playing God in one of these situations. We hear that phrase a lot. You know, you hear it a lot in, like, science fiction stories. You hear it a lot in very fish out of water stories, when a character has powers that are godly or super powerful, and they can really affect people. You hear it a lot in superhero stories as well, but playing God. And it's always the fact that you're controlling something, you're changing something, you're artificially advancing evolution, or you're choosing to kill people who you choose are evil, and, you know, what gives you the right to decide who's evil and who isn't. But playing God always has this very kind of defined meaning in some of these stories. And the definition of that meaning is usually just that you control the lives of the ones that you're looking at. Whereas in this case, in this story, playing God was just giving them more time. Depending on the ending, and keep in mind, these are characters who are aware of you. It's not that they don't know you're there. They know that they are AI in a computer simulation. They're aware that the player is watching and interacting. Because occasionally you as the player actually get to, I guess, form as an avatar and talk to them. But they know that you're there. And so being able to say, you know what, I will disconnect myself. I'll no longer be able to interact with you, but I get to give you more time. And then there's also this sudden, very, you know, a very sudden thing of, and then the power shuts off. So you get to see what their future is like. You get to give them all this time, and then all of a sudden you can't do it anymore, and they're just gone, and they'll never come back. It had this very sudden effect on me. So I'm sitting there going, oh my god. Like, I end up thinking about it. I kind of stuck in my head for a couple of weeks afterwards, where I would occasionally just, you know, remember, oh god, that story exists. I did not want this butterfly, I wanted that butterfly. But, you know, Animal Crossing does a little bit of that too. You know, a little bit, you know, of course, less, in kind of maybe a less interesting way. I don't have a way to grab that. Let's drop some tree branches and go see if I can find that thing. But Animal Crossing does a little bit too. Now, naturally, the computer control, the development of the computer characters in this is not nearly as advanced as that story. You know, Boone and the rest, they just kind of wander around, kind of do their thing. They're not living intelligences. You know, they're not. It's not actual intelligence. It's a script. But, you know, you think about what about Animal Crossing 1? I still have Animal Crossing 1. I have I have my disc. It's nearby. It's sitting next to my GameCube right now. I believe I still have my save file from Animal Crossing 1. So there's this feeling that what if I went back? What if I popped in Animal Crossing 1? It's been years. Anything? Oh, hey, we got one. Okay. But it's been years. It's been probably over a decade at least since I last touched that town. What if these were... Okay, what do we get? Diplo chest. Diplo chest. Awesome. But what if the animals were aware of the time difference? Again, not in a I'm just reacting because it's been... Oh, the Diplodocus is complete. Cool. Yeah, tell me about this. Let's hear it. Good old Diplodocus, what would we do without you? This stout fellow embodied all the best in dinosaurs. Those sturdy legs, that magnificent tail, and above all, that extraordinary neck. Did you know that it is the center of gravity was such that sitting up on its hind legs was probably easy? What's more, paired with its long neck, this ability greatly increased its reach for eating plants. Best of all, Diplodocus probably grew its entire life having no adult size. Would that we were also gifted. Huh. So it definitely has this feeling of what would happen. But also, I think the other thing that really screwed with me, not just the concept of what would happen, but the concept of living outside of time really kind of got to me. Or at least in this case, living outside of their time. You know, you read a lot in books and video games, and you see a lot in movies about these characters who live disconnected from time, right? They, as they live, as they exist, and kind of process through time, very Merlin among others. They see people wither and die, and they hear stories, and you, but generally, you know, Doctor Who being a good example of media that shows this. The Doctor lives outside of time. He sees his companions, he sees people, but he's never really, you know, he might be a part of their life for a short period of time, but eventually they will wither and die, but he won't. He kind of is a constant. He always continues to exist. And, you know, you see these in these videos, but, or in read about these in these books, but you never really, I don't think I've ever had a book myself that really drove this concept home of the, you know, time is passing and things are happening, and I only get to, okay, and I only get to kind of watch from a distance. And then again, having the control over the more I do, the more time I give you. But also there's you also don't really get a lot of, okay, that's extremely rude. I cannot tell you how rude that is, chatter. Your guest walks in and you decide to hop on the toilet in front of them. But it's also the concept of, you know, you have time to offer to someone. Oh, okay. I don't know where Sylvana came from. I do know Sylvana. Yes, I live on the island with her. Why are you in a toga? Here, have a racing outfit. But it's in a big way, it is a combination of a bunch of different things. It's a combination of the, you know, God, you guys are so rude. But very much a combination of the, you know, giving more time, then not being able to give more time, characters you've grown to know, watching them advance. It's a very weird, like, lurch that happened around that time. What's up, Sylvana? I have a thing for you, too. Let's get that old bathrobe off and put you in an oversized sweats dress instead. Okay. A Sprite costume. Okay. Is this one of the colors I already have, or is this a new color? I already have that one. Thank you, though. I don't know, that one kind of, again, it kind of left me in this lurch. And it's, Homestuck did a fairly similar thing with it had a strange, ending that had a very similar feel. Sup, Roccolo? Got a new nickname for me? What's the new nickname? Professor Pie. I don't know about that one. What nickname would I like? Oh. Can I just say no? Don't tease me. No, I don't want a nickname. Cancel. No. Damn. You know what? Okay, we'll do this. Just for fun. Commandant. Yep, works for me. Sure, let's go with that. Okay, that's going to spread amongst all the villagers. But I feel like Homestuck did a very similar thing because of the nature of the kind of abrupt end. We have this very, very time travel-y story that happens. We have a lot of weird interactions. Fate being a primary, fate and predestination being this primary thing going on throughout the course of the story. Here, you get a Sprite costume. Okay, looks kind of neat. Ooh, silk shirt. Okay. But you get this very, it's kind of very complex, very, very, big story with fate and predestination kind of fighting with free will, characters interacting. And you get this kind of pseudo-epilogue that happens towards the end of the comic. And then that epilogue kind of abruptly breaks off as the final loop closes. But then the story ends. The final loop closes. We knew this would happen eventually. The final thing occurs. But because of the nature of it, because of the way it's written as well, because I think that the entire point of the kind of end of that was to have us be about as listless as the main characters were by this point. But because the way the nature of it, the way the final section of the story ends, we end up kind of missing out on a lot of stuff. We kind of get as listless ourselves because we're missing all of the action that happened. The story kind of continues sans action. And then the final action happens, and we don't even get to see it because we already know what it is, but now we don't know the result of it. It made me feel the same way. I had it stuck in my head a lot, going, wow, I wonder how this ends. And that didn't help that, of course, there was this gigantic gap. There was this pause between the very end of the story and then the epilogue as written. But there's just that feeling, and I haven't found a lot of media that did that had that feeling to it, where this ending of the story was very a visual punk outfit. Okay. Ooh, power. Oh, hell yes. Give that to me. Also, I think I want the glass bottle glasses. I can't remember if I've already gotten those, but I think we need some flowery dot tights to... Nah, that's too bright. There we go. What else do we need for this outfit? Do we need Mary Janes? I think we need some... black Mary Janes. Yeah, check this outfit out. I am styling. But I haven't seen very many media that do this. There's a couple of different things that cause me to feel this way. One that happens, and it happens every morning, and it actually sucks, but it's my alarm clock. It's very similar to an alarm clock, actually. Is that I listen to rain sounds as I sleep. It's the white noise I listen to, but the rain sounds have I have a timer on it, and when the rain sounds end, I wake up. It's almost an instantaneous thing in general. And what'll happen is if I'm actually already awake, when the rain sounds end, I have this sudden feeling of something missing. It's this very weird sensation. It's like, the best way I can describe it, it's like walking down a flight of stairs, and I didn't realize that one stair, I miscounted. I'm not looking, I'm preoccupied, and I take that final step, and either there is no stair there, I'm at the ground, you get that stumble, or I think I'm at the bottom, and there is an extra step, and there's that moment where you try to put your foot down over just thin air, and you lose that balance. That's really the way it feels. So when I'm working with, that does that a lot. I also feel to a significantly lesser extent. Let's put it that way. It's absolutely not necessarily the same feeling, but to a significantly lesser extent, I hear it in music sometimes. Sometimes it's when music abruptly ends. I don't hear it often. Honestly, I don't think it sounds good in music. But there is music that I've heard that just ends all of a sudden. The music doesn't come to a stop, because there is that, right? There's some music that fades out. There's some music that it comes to an end. There's the last note, but the music was slowing down, or it was getting quieter, or there was something there that said the end is about to arrive. But I've also seen a number of different musical styles, or like songs, where what the hell is this song? Yeah, I wonder what the song is, though. I didn't really want to look at your drawers. Okay, well, apparently we're not going to learn what this song is. Here, have an ironing set. But there's some songs that they'll come to this abrupt stop. In my head, I can't think of an example right now, but in my head, I'm thinking of there's like a Weird Al song that I know that does it, where the music is rushing along at full speed, and then all of a sudden, on the same note, the final word is said, the final note is played. Sometimes it's a final hit on the drum, a cymbals crash, a chord on the piano, and then nothing, and then silence. And that sudden silence that comes out of nowhere. Why am I going back here? I don't need anything more back here. But that sudden stop and sudden silence, it's so weird, just causes this weird feeling. It's the same feeling as, not having that step below. I also sometimes feel this when I'm listening to music that's not in English. I enjoy, primarily for me, when I listen to music, I listen to music for the melody. I listen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. But I listen to music for the melody. I listen to music for the rhythm. It's not often that I listen to music for the lyrics. Which, your mileage may vary. You may be a different person, but for me, I listen to music for other things. So, for me, it doesn't actually matter if the music that I'm listening to is in English or not. In fact, oftentimes, I actually kind of prefer to listen to non-English music, and it's primarily because of that question of melody. Because I find that a lot of English music, a lot of the stuff where I would like to listen to the lyrics, have a habit of being very, very poppy music. I need 10 red roses and some wood. I can probably do that, but that's not what I want to make right now. So it happens. It tends to be very pop style music when I listen to it like that. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But what that ends up meaning for me at the end of the day is that the rhythm and the melody does not tend to have much going on for it. It's just meant to be kind of a backing for whatever's going on elsewhere. So what I kind of enjoy in kind of a big way is that I enjoy listening to, to other music. Sometime somewhat recently, I discovered The Who, THE space HU, a Mongolian metal band. And Wolf Totem and what's the other song that I really like from them? 1 second. Sorry, I'm looking through my music list to find. There we go. Wolf Totem and Juve Juve You are 2 songs that I adore off of them. And they have, you know, these very distinct feelings in these songs. Especially Juve Juve You, actually, because it's this very... It's Mongolian throat singing with kind of some metal backing, but as the band. But this is it's a very bluesy, you know, style song. So you get this rhythm and you get the Mongolian throat singing, but it's very different from like everything else. So it ends up being this this extremely distinct feel to it. Which I really ended up enjoying. I thought it was... I think the band is fantastic, and I enjoy listening to kind of what they do. But it's one thing that kind of gives me that kind of same level of dissonance sometimes is when we have... when you have a similar style of music that's not in English... 1 second. When you have the same style of music that's not actually in English, and all of a sudden an English word gets thrown in. I suppose it would be, you know, the same if you had a, you know, song in English and you threw in, a Japanese phrase or a Spanish phrase or something like that. You end up having these phrases that get thrown in, and because they are so very... because they end up being this very distinct sound versus what was already there, it also kind of throws me off just a little bit. Not in the same way as the other examples I gave, but there is this moment of, you know, wow, that was different. I wasn't expecting that to happen. A little bit less so, of course, on songs that I've already listened to a couple of times. You know, I'm familiar with them. I know kind of what to expect out of them. So it doesn't happen as much with those songs. My dog is very much getting in my way. She wants my attention. Yeah, it doesn't happen as much with those songs. But there'll be, you know, there's this feeling of, wow, I was expecting something different. It's definitely a weird feeling, and it's not this feeling of this lurch, this difference, this you know, that unexpected happening. Is it raining outside? It's raining outside. That's why she's freaking out. Okay, now I know why my dog's freaking out. But this lurch, it's a very kind of hard to see thing. It's not one of those things that I can find it happening elsewhere. I've never really had success. Not that I've ever truly tried, I'm not going to lie. But I've never really had success finding additional properties that do it. And again, it's not that I've never really tried and gone looking for, you know, a book or a movie or something like that does it again because of how unique it is. But, and because again, it tends to screw with me for a while afterwards. But, you know, it is one of those things that I'm sitting there like, wow, I wonder where more of this, you know, sort of thing exists. And, I keep on sitting here going, wow, I wonder when the next time I'll find one is. I keep on forgetting I need to go from below. We're gonna have, you know, it's basically a treasure hunt going on in my town here, in my village. Go find go run around and go find recipes in the stalls. Again, I find it to be this very unique thing. It's such a strange feeling when it happens. When all of a sudden there's that just, where did that come from? I'm not going to be able to get that out of my head for weeks. It's not this, and it's, you know, I say I can't get it out of my head, and so that might lead you to immediately believe it's like an earworm, you know, it's like one of those songs that you know, you listen to and you can't get out of your head, and it just continuously, you know, plays itself in your head. It's not that. So that's something that I think needs to be stated, is that it's not that sort of feeling. It's not that sort of sensation, in that it's just, man, I you know, I can't get out of my head, or it's especially not, I want it in my head. It's not something you actively are wanting. It's not something you mind either. You know, it's not something like, I want this out of my head. Just, God, I cannot stop thinking about, you know, whatever that was. And I think it's also a little bit different. I remember listening to a Ron White joke. No, not Ron White. Sorry, Lewis Black. I remember listening to a Lewis Black joke, and he was in I can't remember if he was. I think he was like in an IHOP, and he heard from behind him this girl say the phrase, "If it wasn't for my horse, I wouldn't have spent that year in college." And this phrase was intensely odd to him. And he didn't have a chance to turn around and ask her, what do you mean by that? What did you mean? But it's this very weird phrase. It's something you can't get out of your head because it doesn't make any sense, and you're trying to reason it, you're trying to think it through. You know, if it wasn't for my horse, I wouldn't have spent that year in college. But it's not one of those, because that's also practically an earworm, if you think about it. I need 2 more stalls. But that's practically an earworm, you know? That's basically that sort of thing, that it's just one of those things you can't get out of your head. That's not what this is, though. This is not that sort of thing. You know, it's not that you can't get out of your head because you keep on, because you're running it through your head over and over and over. And personally, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I actually have an earworm in my head, one of those songs, personally, I find that it's because I can't remember a lyric. I don't want to craft, I want to customize. I can't remember a lyric. Once I remember what the missing lyric is, which is usually the next... Hey! Freaking out, dog. It's usually once I remember what that next lyric happened to be, then I'm good. The lyric is away. It's not like that. It's the only other thing I can think of that I experienced this to some degree, oddly enough, was you know what, I'll go with Waves. Was the show Gurren Lagann. It was very much the last couple of bits of the show. Gurren Lagann, I stand true to being one of the only shows in a big way, the kind of action shows. I usually would call them feel-good anime. Not that it's necessarily feel-good. You know, it's not. The show is not really a comedy. It's not really a something like that. But you know, it's more of an action, have fun show. It's one of the only shows I can think of that were like that made me cry. I mean, actively cried, not just small tears and that made me sad. No, like actual tears on my face. Only one of the shows that I can. Only one of a few shows I can actually think of that actually did that. But also there was that thoughtfulness of, you know, the happenings. And I remember having another one of these types of feelings as we reached the end of the show and the final events happened, especially, you know, the very last episode. But, you know, I think like Cowboy Bebop did it too, Trigun did it too. A lot of them had that same sort of, you know, sudden end where things ended up happening that I was not really expecting to happen. And I think that might be maybe a mark of a good, maybe good's not the right word. And I hesitate to use the word, like, masterpiece, but maybe that's the mark of an excellent piece of media where, you know, it makes you feel, you know, feel something, yes, like feel something, sure, but, you know, you end up having that thing that you just can't get out of your head. Let's see about island evals. Just put a bunch of new stuff on the island. How are we looking? 4 stars. Okay. One day we'll get 5-star. Okay, well. More appealing scenery. Got it. One day we'll get there. Not today, though. Okay, as usual, that's going to be the end for me. So I do want to hear from you guys, if you can. First of all, have you ever felt that feeling? Has there ever been a form of media that has made you feel that way, where you've ended up, you know, I guess the bottom of the staircase example may be the best possible example. But have you ever kind of felt that way, where you were reading something and you feel very wrong-footed by the end? Not that you didn't like it, not that you felt that it should have been done a different way, but that you just kind of have that feeling of, whoa, you know, that feeling of, you know, again, that feeling that you were stepping off the bottom of a staircase and there was one more step than you thought there was, and there's that moment where you're kind of hanging there, you lost your balance. So partly I want to hear from that. You know, have you felt it? You know, is there another way you would describe it? What media did you consume that made you feel this way? I would really like to hear that as well. Kind of interesting stuff there. So that's going to be definitely part of it. I also would absolutely love to hear from you guys, just kind of in general, what of those types of feelings do you actively go hunt down? Is there a type of reaction you like to get out of the media that you consume? You know, do you like to feel empowered? Do you like to get scared by the media you consume? Or are you just kind of, you're just going for the enjoyment and, you know, these things do not affect you in any major way? But I am kind of curious, so do leave those comments. And as always, if there's a topic that you want me to talk about, I would greatly appreciate hearing about it, and chances are I will talk about it. So let me know. It's a fun way for me to interact with you. If you guys do like hearing these kind of monologue videos and you want to hear more, you can hit subscribe. I do upload, right now, 3 videos a day coming up right now to you guys. If you hit subscribe, you'll be alerted for each of them, as well as whatever new series I happen to work on in the future. And if you hit that like button, not only does that tell me that you liked it, and it's kind of encouraging and it feels good, but in addition to that, it also helps other people find these videos as well. So if you would like other people to find the stuff that you found, hit that like button. I appreciate it. You can find me on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday at about 5:30 p.m. unless something strange happens. I'll be going again tonight. You can not necessarily subscribe there. I would appreciate it if you did, but you can follow me there, and then you'll be alerted for when I go live. You can also go into my Discord, and not only I'd love to talk to you guys more directly, but I announce my go live times, especially when I do random streams that are not on my usual streaming schedule. You can go and go to the Discord, join me there. I'm gonna grab a bunch of wrapping paper. We're gonna wrap all that stuff. But you can join me there, see my go live announcements, and then of course join me when I go live. I'd love to see you guys there. But other than that, that's about going to be it for me today, guys. I love you all. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.